Well, Simon Kuestenmacher is the co-founder of the Demographics Group. You've probably seen a lot of Simon's work before on TV and radio, talking about demographics, talking about data, talking about maps. We're lucky enough to have Simon as one of our keynote speakers here at the NTRO International Technical Conference. Simon, a lot of what you had to say was very transport relevant for us. A couple of the key things that came out of it, in the next decade or so, short-term to medium-term cars, they're not going anywhere.
No, not at all. There will be revolutions, technological innovations in public transport, in working from home, but ultimately we will own cars, and our cities are not being reshaped fast enough to be non-car dependent. And we have our two biggest generations moving into stages of the life cycle where they still have cars. So millennials are the biggest generation, and they move in the stage of the life cycle where you transition from one car to 2 cars per household. So that should drive up the need for cars. So if you own a Toyota car dealership or God knows what, you'll have a great decade ahead, especially since at the other end of the spectrum, the big baby boomer cohort is not yet at the stage throughout the next decade where they are moving away from car ownership, because baby boomers are still too healthy, too active, to actually being forced to not drive anymore. So cars will be with us for the next decade at the very least, and they'll only really stand a chance to be diminished if we reinvent how we use cars, meaning if we all move into self-driving vehicles that are not owned by us, that are owned by, let's call it an Uber-type platform. You've seen all those statistics of it is up to 5% of all cars in a city are on the road at the same time. That is the absolute maximum. So we can probably then assume that if we operated a self-driving autonomous fleet of, let's say, 10% the size of our cities right now, we could then have easily enough cars to move us around. So that would still be car dependent, but we would get rid almost completely of parking, because those cars would be either serviced or they would be driving, so we don't need car parks. So that would be a fun, futuristic innovation that would still be car-based, but it would be much more environmentally friendly because we need 1/10 of the stock.
One of the other things that you mentioned as well, and something I don't think a lot of people are aware of, is that in the next 10 years, we are facing a significant shortage of transport drivers. Why is that, and what is happening?
Yeah, so I like the concept of the retirement cliff. The retirement cliff shows just how bad the future skills shortage will be in certain professions. The Australian workforce overall already has 5% of people that still work post-retirement age, 65 plus. And they have 15% of jobs that are nearing retirement, 55 to 64-year-olds. So about 20% of the workforce will mostly fall away over the next 10 years. That's the national average. All those jobs that has the title driver in them, tram driver, bus driver, taxi driver, all of those jobs have a retirement cliff of about twice the size. So we are facing significant skills shortages. Who is going to drive our trucks in the next 10 years? Absolutely crucial profession. 150,000 people in Australia drive trucks for a living. We face a skills shortage. And it makes sense, who in their right mind, which 18-year-old in their right mind right now would be thinking, yes, I'll be betting my next 50 years worth of work on driving a vehicle if all I hear about are autonomous self-driving vehicles. That's a bit of a bet to take that people are probably not willing to do, especially since there are plenty of other job options out there. That means forever onwards we will need to import truck drivers, tram drivers, whatever, from overseas, because we are sure as hell not creating them in-house.